Welcome into another edition of Target Score Winnipeg. Big news coming out of Sea Bears world with a, we'll call it a massive signing. I'm Joey Slattery. That's Taylor Allen. Be sure to follow us on Instagram if you're not already at Target Score WPG or on YouTube. If you're listening to the show, we're so happy to have you along, but there's also the YouTube aspect of it. So be sure to check out the YouTube portion of the show at Target Score Podcast on YouTube. But happy to have you along, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts on YouTube. Glad that you're here because it's a big one, Taylor. Not a lot of people were expecting this week. Big news last week, obviously, was Mason Bercier moving on. And I thought the news was going to be he signed with Edmonton. But that's not the news. We'll get to that in just a little bit. The big news is the Sea Bears signing Jalen Harris, the record holder for single game points or most points in a single game, is coming to Winnipeg. Played for Saskatchewan for a little bit last year and had some time in Scarborough as well. Your initial reaction to that?
Yeah, so I was at Sea Bears practice the other day and I was talking to Mike Taylor, and basically the story was, hey, like, this team is 1-4. You've lost 4 games in a row, all by double digits. You guys are shooting the ball horrendously. Like, what's the vibe here? What's going on? Whatever. And these past 2 years, like, the Sea Bears have built their team, around a star player. Year 1, Teddy Allen. Year 2, Justin Wright Foreman. And in speaking with Mike the other day, he's like, yeah, this year we try to do more of a team approach. And so far the results haven't really been there, and, whatever. And it kind of felt like at the time he wasn't telling me everything. It kind of felt like he had a kind of a trick up his sleeve that he really wanted to share, but, just still to dot some I's or whatever. So I kind of left that interview going like, okay, like, I kind of think they're going to be announcing something in the next few days, but, who knows? Maybe my hunch will be wrong. Sure enough, a few days later, Jalen Harris, the guy used to play for the Toronto Raptors, former second-round pick with the Raptors, played 13 games with them a few years back. Guy's one of the greatest, one of the best scorers in CEBL history in his 2 seasons that he's played. Now coming to Winnipeg, playing with the Sea Bears, and I mean, they couldn't ask for a better solution to their woes right now. Because I mean, this is a guy who can score, who could shoot, you could facilitate your offense through. And we were talking to Mike Taylor about his game today, and he said, kind of unlike Teddy and Justin, like, this is also a guy that can play well, with the ball isn't in his hands. So yeah, I think someone earlier today was even asking me, like, how big of a signing is this for the Sea Bears, or how good of a player is Jalen Harris? Well, I'd go as far as saying he's the best player that the Sea Bears have ever had. So obviously that's kind of high expectations putting on a guy, but yeah, the way this team was looking after these first 5 games, they desperately needed help. I didn't think that group as it was. Probably, I didn't think they really had the talent probably to kind of turn it around and, finish the year with a winning record. But now you add Jalen Harris, and then again, Simi Shitu, who we've been talking about now for a while. He's coming, he's joining them this weekend, but he'll play next week. I'm sure we'll get more into that. But, you add these 2 guys now to this team, and it's a whole different story with the Sea Bears. I feel like there's nothing we can even pull from these first 5 games now, because they're going to be a completely different team now moving forward.
I knew anxiety, though, was getting high when it came to Simi Shatu. How many people were like, when's this guy getting here? We need him so bad. And then today it kind of came to a halt a little bit with the Jalen Harris signing. It's going to be interesting, Taylor, because I look at it, and the one thing that jumps out of the page to me is we've been hearing since before training camp, like even going back to, the offseason, that this was going to be a different team without the star mentality. This is a star, right? I'm interested to see what the pivot is going to look like. How much difference this is going to change. Is this partly, the Sea Bears, Mike Taylor saying, well, we tried it and it's not working out, so we're going to go back to what's worked in the past and hopefully we can tweak it with the team that we have? Or are we going to see a different side? Was that something that might have lured Jalen Harris a little bit where, hey, we don't need you to drop the 45. We don't need you to drop 30, on a nightly basis, but we do need you to get through need you to help us get through our shooting woes. And once we get into our routine and get into the sets that we're supposed to be doing, you're going to have options where you can focus on the other parts of your game. Because right now, I mean, blatantly, this is not a no star mentality. There's a star on board. You're going to have Simi Shatu, who's also a star in his own right. Going to be a great tandem. And then there's the other problem. There's too many Americans right now, right? There's 5 import players. You're allowed to have 6 on your roster, but on the active roster, meaning the roster that plays in a game, you could only have 4 who dress, right? So there's going to be an odd man out. Now we're recording this on June 5th. So the Sea Bears will be playing tomorrow from this recording against Brampton, and we'll have a better idea of what the lineup's going to look like. But somebody is out in order to make room for Jalen Harris. So as much as it feels like, a patch, so like a good patch. I don't mean like a, patchwork in terms of you just got someone. I mean, you got the best available player out there, but I don't think it's the be all end all right now in terms of the solution. Right, like while you're bringing in a solution for the shooting and a guy who can score and has a track record of success not only in professional basketball but in the CEBL as well as a first team CEBL and second team last year second team all CEBL, but he's got to fit in. Like in terms of someone's got to come out, and how is that going to change the trajectory of this team? I don't know who it is, right? I mean, I know Terry Roberts has been dealing with some things recently. His hip pointer was an issue even last game that he played. He played through it like 30 minutes, which is crazy. But Solomon Young's been consistent, but his playing time's been docked back a little bit. And even when you look at it, Jalen Harris is a guard. Is it going to be too congested at the guard area now because you've got Tevian Jones, you've got Terry Roberts? So I'm interested to see how Jalen fits in. And if you're going to be able to keep everybody happy and not find yourself in a situation like you were last year, because, you've lost a player that you brought back for that whole culture purpose. He's left. That's Mason Bercier. And you bring in a guy who is going to be ball dominant. If you check out his highlights, there's a lot of him creating shots for himself. He is a bucket, right? And Mike Taylor said he's a playmaker. He's willing to pass the ball, and that's fine. But is he effective in that way, right? Is this a guy that's going to need the ball, every possession or majority of possessions where he's putting up his shots? That's what I'm interested to see, is just how the chemistry is going to shift and how much this team is going to abandon what they've worked on so far, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if it's going to fix the woes. Maybe this is a situation where it's just like, you know what? Thought we had the plan, thought we had the team, not working out. So we're going to tear the page out before it's too late and start new while we still have some time.
You know what? I applaud Mike for that because he very easily could have been stubborn and say, no, this year we were trying something different. We're only 5 games and we're going to turn this ship around. Blah blah blah. And again, like I just don't think that was going to be in the cards for this team. It's not like, these are close games that they were losing or whatever. Like they're playing pretty inconsistent. They had some flaws in their game. And again, they lost 4 games in a row. 3 of those were at home, all by double digits. And I know they were playing some good teams, but still, this is the CEBL. You should be beating, anyone could beat anyone in this league, or that should be the case. It just didn't seem like the case for Winnipeg. So if you could add a guy who once scored 31 points in an NBA game as a rookie. Again, and your team is shooting the ball so bad right now. I think it's a no brainer, right? And
Yeah.
it's gonna take some time. And then this is a CEBL thing. Every year teams are adding guys midway through the year or whatever, and they're missing training camp and stuff. So it's going to be an adjustment for the Sea Bears. So I think this first half of the season, these next 5 games, it's all about just like figuring each other out. And again, they're going to get Simi Shitu. He's going to play with them next week and whatnot. So you're arguably adding your 2 most important players at this point of the season, 2 guys who missed training camp, haven't played with these guys before and stuff. So yeah, I think these next couple of games, they might look, maybe they might look a little ugly and not pretty. That some guys may not all be on the same page. But again, these guys, they have time to figure it out because they know they're going to be there at the end at championship weekend. So they can kind of play this game a little bit. So yeah, but it's going to be interesting to see how Jalen Harris looks this weekend. He was just playing in China. That's where he
Yeah.
played overseas this past season with the Monkey Kings, which is a badass name if I do say
Right.
so myself. And best name in sports, maybe. And
Well, time out. Teddy Allen's playing in a team in Mexico called the Zonkies.
that's
That's
yeah, that
right.
could be
There's some good ones out there, but I'm
yeah,
going to go ahead and say Monkey Kings is among the top for sure.
absolutely, yeah. It has to be on the podium
Maybe second
at
to
worst.
Coconuts.
Yeah, oh, maybe. Shout out David Asper on that one. But yeah, so I think these next two games because apparently Jalen Harris is going to be playing. Right, he hasn't even been
Yeah.
to Winnipeg. He's going to meet them in Brampton Friday night, and apparently they're gonna, if all the paperwork goes through and whatever, he's gonna be playing. So yeah, that might look kind of weird, but yeah, I mean, I just don't see how they could not have picked this guy up. And I think, Winnipeg was a little down on the Sea Bears this summer. I think this city kind of really enjoyed having a star to kind of root for these past 2 years, even though it didn't end in a championship. So now it's like, hey, you guys are missing a star player. Well, here you go. Here's a guy in Jalen Harris who's maybe one of the biggest names that have played in
Yeah.
the CEBL in its history.
Well, that's one of the things. I think I might have said it on this podcast. I'd have to go back, but that is something, I've mentioned before, at least in conversation, where there's something to be said about having that Teddy Allen, that Justin Wright Foreman. There's a marketability to these guys, right? There's even you look at last year, as not well as things were going. They were very successful at home, mind you, but there was price of admission, right? Worth the price of admission. There's certain guys where the team success, obviously you want it, but there's also that entertainment value, and it usually has to do with name recognition. A person that you can relate to in some way, shape, or form. And I think with this team, it's just the fans, there was too much anxiety off the top, right? You had the one win, then you go on the losing skid. There just wasn't really an opportunity, for one of those players to kind of break out, and be that guy. Now you have them. And the other thing, too, is you brought it up. Like, Simi Chateau needs a few days before he goes in to, before he's part of the team and in the raw or in the lineup, pardon me. But he's not joining right away. He's joining the team, getting to know the team, getting through some practices on the road, and then they hope to slide him in next week. Jalen Harris is going right in. So that I'm thinking that's because they don't really need the offensive plan for him. It's going to go through him. He's a guy that can come in and just get the ball in my hands and score. So this is where I look at it, where I'm thinking this is going to look a lot different based on what I'm seeing with the planning to put him in right away. He's landing in Toronto the day before the game, joining the team, and as long as the paperwork and everything is cleared in that sense and the physical, nothing to do with his playing or chemistry building, anything like that. If everything's set, he's going to be playing. So I think that gives you a sure sign that this is going to be a team where you're going to see the ball in his hands a lot this weekend, assuming he's playing. And there's going to be an expectation that the shots that we're going up and missing, a lot of them are now going to be in his hands and the percentage is going to come up. So I do think this is going to be a much different team. It's a good signing, like 100%. I don't know if I said that earlier, but this is a very good signing. You got the best player out there, and it automatically generates excitement. I think it relieves some anxiety even before he hits the floor. We see what the team's going to look like, but it's certainly a shift. It's a pivot, right? And as you say, it's credit to recognizing it, making the change that's needed to be changed. There's still more changes down the pipe, obviously, and there's going to be players that will be moving on to NBA Summer League or NBA mini camps. So we're not going to see any changes that are imminent or immediate. But there's going to come a time that if none of these players, find a two-way contract or find another opportunity, at some point there's going to have to be a discussion that either you're staying on the team but be expected to sit out these games for Jalen, or one of these American players are just going to be like, hey, thanks for your service and getting us this far. All the best to you as you move forward. So that's what I'm most interested to see, is just what the team layout is going to look like, who is disposable, in the sense of, coming off the floor or having to move on to a new opportunity. Because I think all the players that have made their mark in this system, even though it wasn't very successful, that's all going to change now, right? And there might be opportunities for players that weren't getting playing time to now step into that role because of the way that they're playing, right? Which will probably be space the floor, get Jalen the ball, and be ready for a pass if his option is out, because you're the next guy up, and chase those rebounds. Because that's another area where they've been good with the rebounding, but it's kind of the same old tune as last year. Rebounding's great, field goal percentage is not, right? So having to turn those into points and then getting stops at the other end.
Yeah, so after we spoke to Mike today, I wanted to speak to Alex Campbell just to kind of get his take on, bringing in a guy like Jalen Harris at this point of the season and stuff. Because, sometimes bringing in a star player, like, yeah, it always looks good on paper, but sometimes it doesn't really work out too well in the locker room where guys aren't that crazy about it because their role gets reduced or just an awkward fit or personalities or whatever it may be. So, anyways, I talked to Alex Campbell today and he said, you know what, I've gone to know Jalen pretty well these past couple of years, and he said he's a really good guy, family guy. So we're excited to have him. So yeah, it looks like the team is gonna, welcome him with open arms. But yeah, like it's gonna change things drastically. I mean, it's been the Tevion Jones show so far. He's been the focal point on offense, and now he's gonna have to kind of share that role a little bit or give up
Yeah.
that role a little bit, and that's probably for the best for the Sea Bears. But we'll see if he kind of agrees with that or how he likes that moving forward. Now I don't know, but I mean, even though Jalen Harris is a very good player and he's going to help them in so many different ways, at the end of the day, he can't shoot the basketball for everyone. Like this team as a
Yeah.
whole does need to get better at shooting, and the practice earlier in the week, I was speaking to Jalen Williams, and he's like, other teams, they're starting to label us as non-shooters, like a team that can't shoot.
Yeah.
Like, so that's the scouting report on this team right now. Is like, these guys, they can't shoot, and you kind of have to agree with it because they can't shoot. So, um, maybe it'll get better now with Jalen Harris. They'll get some better looks now. These guys won't have to force, some shots that they otherwise wouldn't take before. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, as exciting as this is for the Sea Bears and whatnot, like it's not going to fix all their issues. These other guys do still need to
Yeah.
be playing better for this team to, really be a force in that Final Four weekend, which is what they're working towards.
And as we've seen in the past, just because something's good on paper or the promise is there that it's going to work out or it's going to be better, it's not necessarily the case, right? I think the difference is assuming this team stays together. Last year's roster was like star studded, right? Like they had a lot of guys that came in all in one shot. This is the first big star. Tevian Jones was brought in with an opportunity to kind of take that next step as his own team. Like he's played in Scarborough before, and he's a very good impact player, star quality, guy that's you know has NBA potential. Um, but yeah, it's a matter of okay, where does that role fall in now, and does it actually amplify Tevian Jones? But then with these players, is it the mental side of it too, right? Like there's the mental, the ego. All athletes have one, right? That's why they are where they are. So it's a matter of can I use this as an opportunity to improve myself as well as the team, right? Even though the ball won't be in my hands as much, though it might be in my hands in more opportunistic areas or times. So we'll soon see. But yeah, it's a great signing, but I'm hesitant after I put my 15 win prediction out earlier this year to crown anything before it happens. And I'd like to see him here because at the end of the day, he played in Sask last year too, and Sask didn't do anything, right? He wasn't there the whole season, mind you. But just because you get the star player doesn't guarantee that everything's going to work out. As you said, will him and Simi have a chemistry? Will they be that tandem that's going to be feared throughout the league? There's a very good potential for that. And I think that's the best case scenario, obviously. But I think a few things. The first thing is the fact that he's coming in off a plane to play on a team that has 5 games under their belt means there's going to be a seismic shift in what they're doing offensively, especially for the first weekend. Um, might free them up a little bit. That's another thing too, where you're just kind of going through the motions and hooping as opposed to worrying about all the sets because your star player doesn't know them.
That's what I'm
Um,
curious about, Joey. And I asked Mike this today, and he said, well, that's a question for Jalen. It's why did he sign with the team now? Like
mhm.
I don't think his season in China went late and was like, oh, he was tied up over there. He couldn't sign with anyone. Like why was he sitting on the sidelines until now? And who knows? There could be a million different reasons for that. Maybe he had a little injury that he wanted to rehab first, or maybe he just wanted a little break first, some downtime. I know he's a dad, I believe, so who knows? That could be a factor, or who knows? It could be a million different things. But like you also can't rule out. Maybe is there something that we don't know that there's a reason why he was available. That's not a good thing. I don't know. So once he does get to town, we could actually speak to him. I'll be curious to see what he has to say about that. But yeah,
Yeah, because
because in a way, it's like, why was this guy still available?
the only thing I could think is because it's championship weekend, right? Like if I'm going to come back for another summer,
That
he
could be it
already
too.
knows,
That could
you
be it
know, it,
too. Yeah.
the 5 games are gone, so it's technically the same length as any other CEBL season for him now. And there's a chance of, like what's the worst that could happen if let's just say nothing changes. Can't put that on Jalen, right? So if he comes in and he's like, on the portfolio or resume, it's like, yeah, then I came to this team and saved it, and they want to, help them win a championship, and I'm a champion now as well too, right? Like there is that part of it where it's like, what do I have to lose? I'm going to a place where I know it's passionate. He I'm sure he knows that game on Wednesday, the first game back after this mini road trip, it's going to be slammed. I mean, I would be shocked if there's no less than 8,000 people in there just wanting to get their first look at Jalen Harris and the new era almost, right? But, the Sea Bears, and let's put it back to you were talking about the credit, to Mike Taylor, and I'm going to add on this a little bit too. The Sea Bears have built themselves on the star, right? In their early era. It started with Taylor or Teddy Allen, and then it was Justin Wright Foreman, and now we're in the Jalen Harris era. So you're going to what you were kind of built on initially, which doesn't mean that you don't have that work hard culture. I think the other guys amplify that as well. Um, I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to see how it's going to pan out. Uh, Going up against Brampton, I mean, we don't have to get too much into this, but they're Brampton Scarborough this weekend. Brampton has not won a game yet. They do not look good. Scarborough, too early to tell. He's got some time. He played in Scarborough, so he knows that very well. He'll be excited for that game. But I do think it's a good trip to get him. If you're going to throw someone in the fire, this is the time to do it against a team that's struggling more than you are. And you're not at home. You're not playing in front of that pressure, and you also have some familiarity playing in that area, having played for Scarborough. So we'll see. Obviously, your Pacers are playing in a little bit. That's why you're all decked out. Big game for
Oh,
you.
am I decked out? I
Hey,
just
you
happen
know
to be
what?
wearing this today.
I I I just have to take this, man. I got to eat this one. I gave it to you for so long with the Celtics that I'm almost proud of you. After we destroyed you in the Eastern Conference Final last year, you were
We
able
were
to
young.
rise from the
We were learning.
ashes, like the Phoenix. You rose from the ashes, and then you took out the not so good team that got lucky the round before, and now you're in the finals because the Celtics weren't in your way. So really hoping this is it for you, man, because this might be the only run. So I'm really rooting for your Pacers, man.
That was a nice backhanded compliment. This might be the only run. You know what? The last episode that we did, I had my Reggie Miller jersey hanging behind me, and that was right before Game 5 against the Knicks, and they lost that one. So just you know, to give them a better chance tonight. We're recording just before they tip off Game 1 against the Thunder. I thought I'd put up a Danny Granger. So who knows? Maybe Danny Granger, the spirit of Danny Granger, will lead them to victory. I don't know, but it's kind of a weird thing. Like I'm so excited, and this is unbelievable, and I still can barely wrap my mind around it because like when I was growing up watching the Pacers, like I was watching like Dunleavy Jr. and stuff, and like that was Pacers basketball, baby. Like there were some pretty bleak years, watching him and Troy Murphy and all these other bums. So now that they're in the finals, like holy crap! But they're going up against a team that's like historically really, really, really
Dude,
freaking good.
it's
And every expert, not that I believe everything that Bill Simmons and all these guys say, but like basically every expert out there is saying, yeah, the Thunder are going to win this in 5 games. And they
dangerous though.
yeah, exactly. And you never know. The Pacers have been the underdog this entire postseason, basically surprising people along the way. And this Thunder team is very young, very,
Yeah.
very young. So who knows? Maybe
And not been
that
here
could be a
before,
factor. Not been there
right?
before,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm going into this really with no expectations. I'm just gonna enjoy the ride. But oh my goodness, if they somehow pull this off, knock off the Thunder, and become the NBA champions, Joey. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna be like you last year. Buying Celtics championship shirt, underwear, socks, the whole 9 yards, and wear it 24/7. Because like, yeah, this is just growing up a Pacers fan. Just never thought I would see this happen. So, but we'll
Well,
see. We'll see what happens. See what
so
happens.
that's the terrible part. I decided at the end of the year, once a new champion's crowned, I've got to retire my championship stuff, and I'm gonna throw it in the keepsake bin. I'll bring it out on occasions for sure, but yeah, it's my last week and a half maybe where I can still wear it. But before we wrap this up though, I think we do have to touch on Mason Bercier signing with Edmonton, because that would have been the latest development since our last episode. Were you surprised by the signing at all? I wasn't shocked. I knew that there was highly likely he would be back in the CEBL. Uh, I was maybe a little bit shocked that it was Edmonton that came out of the woodwork, a division rival, but I kind of really like the signing. I think he's going to do well there in that backcourt where they can get some stability and a little bit of, maybe defensive grit there. But what was your reaction to him signing to Edmonton?
Yeah, I can't say I was like really surprised that something came together so soon. Because I mean, like if he was asking for his release, you'd kind of think in the back of his mind that he felt pretty confident that he'd have another opportunity lined up, really. And I mean, I don't know Edmonton's team well enough to really comment on how he's going to fit and whatnot, but yeah, we spoke, endless amount of times about how we feel about his game, and I feel like he really only scratched the surface here in Winnipeg. I think he could grow into a pretty solid player here, but yeah, it just didn't work out in Winnipeg, and the Sea Bears have moved on. They're off to bigger things, I guess, and it looks like Mason might be as well. So yeah, good for him for landing on his feet. And again, like I said last episode, really good guy. He did our show and he was fantastic, and really always great to deal with and stuff. So yeah, easy guy to cheer for. So yeah, we'll see what he does with the Stingers.
I'm a little bummed out because the first rematch is June 22nd. It's a Sunday game, but it's in Edmonton. He doesn't make his return. Where I'm just going through. Actually, do they even play again here? I'm not too sure if they even have another game. I'm sure they do, but yeah. So, and July 25th is the game they're back. I'm interested to see that one because I'm sure he'll get a warm reception. But from what I hear from my sources in Edmonton, they're he's fitting in very well. They're very impressed with his defense, particularly, and his character. So I think you're also getting a hungry Mason too. Like his game is going to be elevated just after not getting what he wanted here in Winnipeg, getting that second chance out there with a market that I think is, second to the Winnipeg, maybe in terms of they've got great support, great atmosphere, good organization as a whole. So I'm excited to see what he does out there. I'm excited to see the games though against Winnipeg, and I'm interested to see if Jordan Baker is going to give him maybe a little extra playing time. Maybe I don't know if it starts in the cards, but definitely some playing time to be like, hey man, here's your chance to send your message on the court. Let's see what you do. But yeah, happy to see him, back in the CEBL. Like you said, too bad it didn't work out here, but I think he's going to do really, really well out in Edmonton. Any final thoughts, Taylor? I know that you're itching to get we're almost minutes away from tip off here before we end this recording, but are there any final thoughts as it pertains to Jalen, Sea Bears, Mason, road trip this weekend?
I think final thoughts, just when it comes to the Sea Bears, I mean, I'm going to reserve any spicy takes until maybe the second half of the season. This first half of the season, I think it's all about them just finding their footing, getting used to each other, incorporating Jalen, incorporating Simi. So there's going to be some growing pains. So really, kind of this weekend, whatever happens, I think I would take it with a grain of salt. Even next week against Montreal at home, take it with a grain of salt. Maybe I'm being too generous there. I don't know, but yeah, once it's game 11, 12, and if they're still not looking any better, then I think it's the time to maybe press the panic button. But yeah, rough start. Kudos to them for realizing that to switch it up, and we'll see if this is the solution. But again, it's gonna take some time to answer that question, so we'll have to be patient. And lastly, Pacers in 7.
In 7, okay, wow. I thought you'd be like really arrogant and be like, Pacers in 5. That's what I would have done, but I guess you're more
No,
realistic
Pacers
than
in
I
7.
am.
Make it exciting, right? Because everyone's complaining about the small market team, so damn it, they're gonna deliver an incredible, epic series, and the Pacers will win Game
Yeah.
7.
And my final thought to that is the end of the day, I know they don't want to think about it, but you do have a bye to the conference final. You might as well build the best team possible. They have a whole runway here with two new guys that are coming in that could shift everything this season. I agree with you. Whatever happened in the first 5 games, you can kind of throw out the window. This is a new window of season for the Sea Bears, and it all starts on Friday, June 6th. That's tomorrow from the time of this recording. 6:30 start in Brampton. It's on Game Plus, CEBL Plus, and TSN Plus. Saturday in Scarborough, 7 o'clock start on Game Plus, CEBL Plus, and TSN Plus. And we will be back here next week with the rundown ahead of that Montreal game when they return home on July 11th. I'm Joey Slattery. That's Taylor Allen. We'll see you later. Have a good one.